So right off the bat, you notice that his head is lower, his head carriage is lower. Good. So I'll bring him right in, right there. So that took like 30 seconds to get.
Yeah.
And immediately he was like, so I get rewarded when I stretch down and long and low. And so that's the big thing we have to really remember with anything, like the simple fundamental fact that goes with any horse that we touch is that when they do good, we release the pressure and that is the reward for them.
Yeah.
Right? We become the reward, we become the safety for them but realistically, they're releasing their own pressure. So all we're doing is being a guide to them so they understand, hey, you know, because if I kept holding pressure and I just kept pushing him, say that I didn't stop him when he initially dropped his head and I just kept going and the head went back up, then he's gonna go, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
And he's not gonna understand what it is that he wants. And so having a horse that tends to want to rear and get stuck, we have to help him to find that relaxation by going, you can go forward by opening up the shoulder, opening up the back, loosening the back muscles using abdominal muscles. So now I'll just ask him to go again. So, but you notice a lot less triggered. Now he's walking around like. So now if I ask for the trot, I want the transition to be smooth. So trot. See how the head really didn't do anything that time?
Yeah.
It's like this is really good for him. So the head's coming up a little bit there. There we go. Good boy. So now he understands what I'm asking for him. So I want him to start to think about putting that head down. Good. I'll bring him back to a stop for a second. So each time it's getting longer.
Yeah.
Right?
And he goes back to it a lot quicker.
Yeah, and I should have done it at that first time he did it just on that circle, but I missed my opportunity because we were talking.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let's see if he'll come back to that. But remember, it's like if you drive a stick shift, you don't want to be like, and like grinding the gears, right? You want it to be smooth. When we were talking about feel, this is a great way to think about feel as well, is that if you've never driven a stick, and I'm teaching you how to drive a stick and to let the clutch out, I can teach you all day long, but until you sit there and you have that left foot and you're feeling where the clutch is engaging, where it's smooth and you're not just doing this, or you just let it out and the tires let go, that's something that I can tell you conceptually how it's gonna feel, but you're the one that has to feel it through your body. And if you think about that analogy, that's how it is with horses.
Yeah.
Everything comes to that feel. So that's when we were talking the other day that you can't teach feel, but you can learn feel.
Yeah.
You can teach the concept of what feel should be like,
exactly.
But you can't teach feel. So like just like if I ask him to move off, is that I want to be in page with him where he knows that I'm speaking the same language with him. So my goal is to get him to go into that trot without doing a whole lot of anything and just go, hey. So all I did was lift my hand up there a little bit. So as you're watching, see he's checking in with me a lot more now, but I'm not, he could rip this out of my hands at any point. So he's starting to find self-carriage. So if I put my hand forward, it means go forward. So now in this case, most of the times I would say, hey, go forward. But you know what? He's checking in with me. He's not a horse that typically checks in, and this is why every horse is not cookie cutter.
Yeah.
We have our guidelines, and then we really build on each individual horse. And this is what the great thing about horses, they really teach you how to be around people.
Yeah.
Especially going back to like understanding feel and kind of what they need right now. So now I might go, thank you, you did really good. Let's go back out. And you wanted to check in with me? Well, you really don't want to check in with me typically. You've never wanted to check in with me. So if he was a horse that wanted to check in with me all the time and just stop to rest, it'd be different. But he's a horse that wants to check in with me. So now we're getting that licking and chewing. Now he's starting to really stretch down. So when we talk about a horse should be able to carry, if I want him to trot around, this is where his head should be if I don't have him in a frame.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden I stop, he goes, okay, we stop. My hand was like this the whole time.
What a good boy.
Okay, so that's really, really cool for him going to the right. So he, like I was explaining yesterday, is that when I'm trotting around, he should be like, his head should be like that.
Yeah.
Just cruising. Now if I go to pick him up, if his head's any higher than that, he's gonna start to tighten through the C1 through C7, all those muscles, and the back muscles are gonna start to tighten.
Yeah.
But you could see how much more impulsion he was starting to get through that, and he's going, oh, I can move my body.
And he was super attentive to you too in a relaxed way. Like
Yeah.
the past 2 days seems like he's like trying to pay attention to you, but he's like more explosive and reactive from it, you know? And
Yeah,
this time
he was,
he's
because he was like
relaxing.
trying to figure out the concept.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So with him, the training of him, reward is big for him. The reward meaning that we allow him to take the time to breathe and to reset a little bit.
Yeah.
So now we're going to try going off to the left. Now, if he does good with this is where I would call it, I'm going to call it a day with him, because
He's being so
it's
good.
taken us quite a bit of hours to get to this point with him. And every day this week, he's gotten better and better and better.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to ask him to move off here. So I want him to, my main aid is my hand first. So now he walks off really nice. So now if I want him to trot, so I'm going to bring my energy up slowly, because I want him to understand that it's not a bad thing for him to go forward. So as we talked about before we started this video, is that so he's kind of running on the forehand right now. So I want him to slow down a bit and start to really reach and stretch over that back. Now he's carrying himself fairly well, because he's not pulling the line out of my hand. But what I'm looking for is more bend in that shoulder and that rib cage, and for him to kind of open up that shoulder. In order to do that, he's got to open up the throat latch a little bit, stretch down and out. So I'm just going to encourage him to stretch down. And especially with a horse that rears or bucks, one that rears or bucks, is that I want to have him so light on the end of this line that he thinks it on the slightest bit of feel. Like you can see.
Just wiggled your finger and he slowed down.
Yeah. So then back to, so now I'm trying to go, okay, so now we got the licking and chewing. So if I pull that head in towards me slightly, it's not to go faster or to stop, it's to starting to open up the freedom of the shoulder and allowing him to stretch down and be able to bend to the left slightly without the shoulder going off the track. So as I'm doing this, if you'll notice that I'm using my flag as a guide towards the shoulder, towards the rib cage. Now we can't use our flag as a tool like this until the horse understands what the pressure means, or the energy that we're applying and where we're applying it towards. Good, good, good. Come to a walk. See if he's going to be with me. Let him really take that in.
Look at him licking and chewing.
Yeah, so like this is important, right? So like, but we want a balanced horse on both directions. But you can see he's like, whoo,
Yeah.
that feels good. So now we'll give him a minute or so to take a breather.
Yeah.
You know, and just kind of like, you know, he's absorbing, he's processing this. He's like,
Yeah.
wow, he's like, so we're building that relationship. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And so I want my horse that if he's standing there, he's completely content standing there. Want some water, buddy?
I used to feed my horse when I rode ice him. I'd give him like handfuls of the ice to chew on.
He loved it.
Especially in the summer, he loved it.
So now we're gonna do this same side again. And if he does good, we'll call this a day with him. So once again, I'm looking for when he walks off, does he push the shoulder out? Does he get back on his track and not want to drop that shoulder? Is his head nice and relaxed? You can see we have a horse now that's walking along like a horse that you'd be riding in the mountains of Colorado that's a trail horse.
Yeah.
Just kind of podunking along.
Waiting for his next command.
Yeah, so now I'm going to ask for the trot. So I want to see that, so you can see the relaxation in the neck. When I ask for that trot, I want to keep his head right there. I don't want him to have to feel like he's got to get nervous, because if the head comes up, he gets nervous. So I'm just going to ask for the trot. So I'd rather take my time with this and teach him to transition properly, then just get after him.
Yeah.
There. So the head came up a little bit, but lick and chewed and went right back down.
Yeah.
So when we talk about small circles with horses, because that's a big question I get a lot, is, oh, is that bad for them? No, it's not bad for them if they're in balance. You can have a horse mess up their suspensories or their, especially the collateral ligaments. If they're turning, if they're leaning like a motorcycle, it doesn't matter if the circle is 10 meters, 20 meters, or 40 meters. You see, sometimes you see some of these horses that are being lunged at these shows and they're ripping around in a circle.
Plowing down on that inside front.
Yeah, so like to me, I would rather have a horse that he's on about a 3 meter circle right now probably.
Yeah, yeah.
But if he's in balance, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing, is that if we're having these horses that we're doing, whether it's dressage or jumping or any discipline, we want them to be able to load correctly and balance themselves. Good, stretch down. I'm going to encourage that. But you see how much more consistent his speed is in this gait now?
Oh yeah.
And now he's getting really aware to my energy. Good. And I'll bring him to a walk. And I want to see how quick he is. So you see he's not as fast on this side to really start to bend through that rib cage and follow me. Because my goal is to never pull the horse with my line. My goal is to guide them through the hind end.
Have him follow you.
So if he does that one more time good on this side, now that took about a minute, so we'll just give him a minute rest, let him kind of chill, but you can see that he's just like, his whole demeanor is like different.
Oh yeah.
Good boy. I might do the same video on all 3 horses today to show the difference, because all 3 of them will be different.
Oh, that'll be really interesting. This will be interesting with fashion.
Yeah. So I'm gonna ask him again. So I went into the trot so much easier that time. Like barely had to ask anything. Good. Ask for the trot again. Good, and I'll stop there. But so that time he carried it for like 4 or 5 steps. So that right there, so when he does that, I'm going to reward him by not only releasing the direct pressure that I was asking him to carry himself, but the steady pressure of the saddle being on his back. So he's getting 2 releases.
Oh, you're all good. Thank you.